On Tuesday, the Arizona Supreme Court upheld a law from 1864 that bans nearly all abortions. I want to start with a very simple but perhaps complicated question. How exactly did this come to pass?
Well, it is a dark day in Arizona, a dark day that will hurt women across our state. Women, their lives will be at risk because of this legal decision, but not just the legal decision, the political decisions that led up to it. So what happened is that Arizona has had this law on the books since 1864 that is a near total ban on abortion, no exceptions for rape and incest. When Roe v. Wade was passed by the United States Supreme Court, when that was the decision of the United States Supreme Court, it put a stay on this 1864 law. Over the years, the Arizona legislature has put some restrictions on access to abortion services for women across Arizona, but they never, ever repealed the 1864 law. And in a very cynical move, just a couple years ago, the legislature passed a 15-week ban with no exceptions for rape or incest, but they specifically put in a provision that said the 1864 law is not preempted. It did so at the request of some very right-wing organizations that were hoping the Supreme Court would overturn Roe, and therefore the 1864 law would still be in place. Sadly and tragically, that's exactly how this played out. They never preempted the 1864 law. The Supreme Court did issue the Dobbs decision overruling Roe v. Wade, and therefore this 1864 law went into place. This was challenged by Planned Parenthood and others, saying that the 15-week ban should be the law in Arizona, but the Arizona Supreme Court just yesterday issued its ruling saying this territorial law that was passed even before Arizona became a state, at a time when women could not even vote, when Native Americans were not considered fully human under law in the state of the United States. A law from that time period is now the law of the land again in the state of Arizona, and that's why it's a dark day in our state.
How soon does this go into effect? Because there have been reports that the state attorney general has said that she will not enforce it. She is against this. There's, of course, the ballot measure that we can talk about in a little bit. But effectively, this news came this week. So do abortions stop immediately, or do folks have some time?
Okay, this is under legal dispute as well. Certainly, the Supreme Court gave, I think, a 15-day period for the plaintiff organizations to go back to the trial court and see if the trial court would stay the opinion for any reason. That's 15 days. There was an agreement earlier on in this litigation under a previous attorney general that would add an additional 45 days after any final decision before we go into order. So most people think 60 days is the time period where this becomes actually in place in the state of Arizona. And yes, we do have a very important initiative on the ballot in Arizona that would restore the protections under Roe v. Wade in the Arizona Constitution. And I support that, and I think it's the right thing. I think now the voters of Arizona, to the extent there was any question, are going to overwhelmingly support this initiative to send a strong message that when it comes to civil and constitutional rights, including this right to abortion services, which has been in place for 50 years before the Dobbs decision, it was settled law in this country. First time in America, we've gone backwards on constitutional rights. We're going to restore that right and send a message that in our country, we go forwards on civil and constitutional rights, not backwards.